Hello, welcome to Monday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Yeah, good, Daniel. Good.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, a happy Monday. Yeah. How's things with you? Good to see you.
Aye, wonderful. I was off last week and didn't feel right not being on the hotline. Just didn't feel right.
No, it was certainly good to have you back on the team yesterday, Dan.
This is lovely, nice and convivial. Excellent. Where
It
should we
won't last. It won't last.
Where should we start tonight then? Some
Well,
Rangers news
we've
today.
got lots of stuff, haven't we?
Aye,
We've
lots of
got
stuff.
Des Clark, our resident ref.
Des
We spoke
Roache.
to him earlier. I keep calling him Des Clark. Des Roache. Sorry, Des, our resident ref. Des Clark would be funnier, wouldn't
That would
it?
be funny.
Des Roache, and you caught up with Andy Newport a little bit earlier on today
Yep.
to get his view on all things Rangers. And a couple of wee news lines at the top of the show as well, Dan, isn't there?
There is indeed. In fact, the one that I think maybe is best to start with is friend of the show, Kyle Gunn, is filing a story for Record Sport Online. I think it's going up right about now, involving Mark McGee. What more can you tell us, Keith?
I think that Kyle's got an interview. I think it was set up we want to get an interview with Mark McGee ahead of the League Cup final. I think it was mainly going to be a piece about Stephen Robinson and the wonders that he's been working at St Mirren. But as part of the conversation, apparently Mark McGee has said that it would benefit Wilfred Nonsi if he steps away from this in the short term and allows Martin O'Neill to take Celtic all the way to the cup final at Hampden. It's funny. It's starting the momentum behind that whole theory is really starting to grow a bit, Daniel. I've really felt it over the last wee while. I mean, we've obviously been talking about it for a considerable period from the moment actually that Celtic put Rangers out at the semi-final. It did look as if it was almost fated that would be almost like squaring the whole circle for Martin O'Neill if he was given that opportunity to go out at Hampden and see if he can win another trophy as Celtic manager. But the closer we get to it, that seemed like a bit fanciful, a bit romantic, a bit of a notion back then. But the closer we get to it, the more realistic it seems to become. I wonder what the Celtic fans out there are feeling, because certainly the comments that we've been getting over the last wee while, both into the paper and on Hotline Live, Dan, suggest that there's a groundswell of opinion now amongst Celtic supporters that that's exactly the scenario they want to see.
Yep, and if you're watching at home, let us know your thoughts on that and anything else that you want to discuss in tonight's show. I would go as far as to say, Keith, if there was a referendum with Celtic fans right now, I think it'd be a landslide to keep
Sack the
Martin O'Neill
board.
longer. There'd be that as well. But see, just on O'Neill, Mark McGee suggests it would benefit Nonsi. What do you think, if I put it to you that I think it would benefit everyone? I think it would benefit Nonsi. I think it benefits Celtic because they're going into these games against Hearts, crucial, at home. I think O'Neill would love to do it until the cup final.
I'm sure he would. Here's my problem with that. If you've gone to the trouble of identifying the guy that you think is the best bet for Celtic, you think this boy is going to be top notch, he's the long-term solution. I'm struggling. I think you need to engage in a little bit of mental gymnastics to arrive at a point where you think, well, it's okay, we just hold him off, just keep him away from the thing for a while because Martin O'Neill's in charge. I think you need to be more clear in your thinking here. You either think this is the guy that we want, therefore you get him in as quickly as possible, or you reach the conclusion that are we trying to fix something that ain't broken because Martin O'Neill's already done it? And can you convince Martin O'Neill to stay for the longer term? I don't know if these conversations are actually taking place right now. But I did say last night, it's all starting to feel a little bit mysterious, isn't it? There's a bit of intrigue to the whole thing. And Martin O'Neill doesn't look like a man or sound like a man who's in any rush to take that tracksuit off. I think he's rather comfortable in it.
I completely agree. And P. McLaughlin in the comments, and as I say, if you want to get involved, please do so. He points out that Martin O'Neill was in TalkSport today, and he did seem to say that Wednesday would be his last game. But then, look, I think
he said that before. He says it before almost every match.
Aye.
And then, what do you know? Well, there's been another conversation, and I've hidden some more paperwork. And so, look, as I've said previously, and as I stated in my column this morning, in all probability, it is probably correct that there is some paperwork issue. It's just starting to stretch your belief a little bit, because these things don't take anybody else so long to sort out. This, even by Celtic standards, is becoming a bit of a saga. But let's take everybody at their word and just assume that that's correct and it's nothing more than paperwork. But I still think what I said last night and what I've said in the column today stands, that the more success Martin O'Neill has with his side, the more wins he gets under his belt, the more momentum that the side begin to build under Martin O'Neill, the more of a potential downside there is to the Nongsi appointment.
Mm.
And that's just a fact. I don't see there's any way of looking, any other way of seeing that. If Martin O'Neill was, as I said, 1-1, drawing one, losing one, winning one, then fine. I think everybody would say, well, this isn't going anywhere quick. Thanks very much, Martin, for coming in at the hour of need for the club. What an incredible servant he's been. But the fact of the matter is, he's come in. He's not just stabilised it. He's solidified the whole season for Celtic. They're about to go. I would imagine over the course of the next few days, they're about to hit the front in the SPFL title race for the first time in weeks, months, whatever. Having been really quite detached from Hearts for a period of time, they've made it past Rangers. They're into the first semi-final. He's solidified the European campaign and made progress there achievable for Celtic. And with each success, each little win that he has, I think the momentum builds, and the fans are thinking, we don't want this to end. So I do think that presents the board with an issue. But they're probably, you would think, they're too far down the road with Wilfred Nosey to just pull the plug on it at the 11th hour, I think. Although, as I did say, until this is presented as a fait accompli, this season has been so mental, even by Scottish football standards. This has been through the looking glass, this campaign. So anything is possible right now in this current climate, and with Dermot Desmond acting in such a bizarre, sort of unpredictable manner right now, which is something we've not seen before. Anything's possible until until the final kind of vision is delivered and it's all wrapped up in green and white bows and it's over, it's finished. This is what it is. Until then, I'm refusing to take anything for granted right now.
We're getting plenty of comments in on this, Keith. You can see one on your screen there. Tommy says, why not team O'Neill and Nonsi up for the final? That would be good. But quite a strong reaction from fans. I'll run through a few now. Kevin Dunn says, Martin O'Neill should be there for the final. He helped guide them. I don't know if Martin O'Neill will want to take the job long term due to age, but being made a chairman would be a fitting and make a lot of sense. Mark says, please drop this narrative, guys. The new manager should be installed ASAP. Kieran says we'd be in a much better place next season if O'Neill stays until the end of the season. Would suit Nonsi perfectly too. Rebel says it's his last hurrah, let's have it. Mike says sentimental nonsense if O'Neill stays. Get the new man in ASAP. James wants him there though. Henrik McLarson, great name, says, not sure Nonsi wants Martin O'Neill hanging around like your ex's father-in-law. And the hippie says, it's risky bringing a new manager in at this time of the season. Why not give O'Neill to the end of the summer? Then the new manager can get the summer with the squad.
Because then Wilfred Nonsi's sitting on his hands. Is he just meant to sit there and just think, well.
For 6 months.
Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. And one of these comments was right. There is a touch of rose-tinted sentimentality about the whole thing. And maybe, the best way of viewing it is, look, it was great while it lasted. What a wonderful little adventure that nobody saw coming. Martin O'Neill has steadied the ship. They're not taking on water on the pitch, at least. And it's all there. The season is set again for the new guy to come in. But I'm struggling with what the prevarication around it, the length of time it's taken. It doesn't feel right. It's taken longer than it should have done. And by the way, it's fair to say that Celtic supporters really deserve some sort of explanation. I know the board's in a huff for them right now, but that doesn't mean it's okay for them just to, retreat from the public front line and say nothing. Well, day after day,
one half update in 5 weeks.
Day after day, the 73-year-old manager's getting forced out, and he's having to front it all up and answer questions on their behalf. Celtic supporters deserve better than that. They deserve to be treated like that. And it's not I don't think it's a great look for the board just to say, oh, well, we're not talking to him anyway. We're in a huff.
Do
So,
you know?
yeah, it all smacks of... And it's exactly what Martin O'Neill has managed to do. Do you know something? Against all odds, he's partly unified a situation which seemed that there was no hope for it to be anywhere near pulled back together. Martin O'Neill has somehow managed to do a bit of that. And if Wilfred Nancy could come in, hit the ground running, start winning games, then maybe the whole thing just starts to get back together again from a Celtic perspective. But as I keep coming back to, I do think Martin O'Neill has presented Wilfred Nancy with a problem, because follow that one, son. And he's also presented the board with an issue, because if they appoint their guy and he doesn't hit his straps and perform as well as Martin O'Neill has performed during this interim period, then it will be blamed on the board.
Do you know what it reminds me of, Keith, a wee bit? The summer of 21, when for weeks and weeks, Eddie Howe was going to be the next Celtic manager. It was going to be done. It's just a case of working
Went on
things
for
out.
months.
Just needs to get his staff. And then it never happened. It kind of feels the same to me, like you say. Look, if the manager wants to come and you want him, I get he's with another club, but it really shouldn't take this long.
Yeah, well, the American season, the MLS season's finished, isn't it? So
3 weeks ago, eh?
yeah. So look, I don't know, paperwork, visas, I don't know. And nobody really knows the truth, because Celtic aren't coming out and informing anybody.
Yeah.
Again, and a moment in time, by the way, when Michael Nicholson, the chief executive, is being lampooned as the invisible man of Celtic Park. Wouldn't it have been a good thing for him to come out and own this, and come out and tell the fans and keep them, you know, keep them informed of what the situation is and what the likely time of arrival is? I just don't think it's fair on Martin O'Neill that he has to keep dropping the bomb
Mm.
in pre-match interviews where he's meant to be there for his last game, and then he drops the bombshell before kick-off. By the way, guys, it does look as if I'll be still doing this on Wednesday night.
That's not fair on
How
him.
many more times? It's not fair on Martin O'Neill. Actually, Martin O'Neill deserves to be treated a whole lot better than that
Yeah.
by the board as well. So again, they've taken a situation. Martin O'Neill has helped take a bit of the heat and sting out of it, but they're not helping themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair on Martin O'Neill that has to go out there and front it up all the time.
See, just very briefly, Keith, well, we mentioned St Mirren in the upcoming Premier Sports Cup final. Bob in the comments says, is Stephen Robinson under pressure? And I didn't realise it's 7 defeats in a row for St Mirren.
Been a bad run.
I should caveat it. I think Stephen Robinson is one of the best managers in the Premiership. I don't think he should be under pressure. But 7 defeats in a row, that's a lot.
It's a bad run. It's a really bad run. And I think, the amount of stick that's been flying around up at Dens Park, aimed at the general direction of Stephen Presley, for them to go up there and get a fairly sound beating at the weekend. Brilliant result for Stephen Presley and for Dundee. But it's a bit of a horror story, this run that Stephen Robinson's on. And it seems to have, just went downhill at the wrong moment, just when they were all set up and looking forward to this cup final. They've just lost their way a little bit. I would really expect them to find a way out of that, because it's St Mirren and it's what they do. They've not been a one-season wonder under Stephen Robinson. They've done it consistently. They've churned out results. I would imagine they'll get back on track. The question is, can they get back on track and find a bit of form before the cup final?
Well, they've got Aberdeen at Pittodrie on Wednesday before Dundee United at home, and then it's the cup final. And obviously Aberdeen 3-1-0 wins in a row. So that you'd imagine be a tricky game. It just jumped out at me, 7 defeats in a row. As you say, it is an absolute horror run.
It's most unlikely. Unlikely, that's for sure.
I agree with you, though. I do think they'll get out of it. So there you go. Other news today, Keith, from across the city, revolves around a man named, I forgot his name, so that's good, Jonathan Hunter-Barrett, who it seemed was all lined up to be Rangers' new sporting director.
Under the Kevin Thelwell jobs for the boys scheme.
But it turns out he's not going to be the sporting director after all.
Yeah, well, academy director. I think he was lined up for Rangers, and it was Kevin Thelwell. It was his decision. He was another one of his appointments, and for whatever reason, Rangers have decided. And Rangers are taking ownership of this by saying that it was, I think, how they've described it, it was a joint decision, that both parties agreed that the appointment wouldn't be ratified and rubber stamped at the 11th hour. I strongly suspect that it was a more Rangers decision than it was the other way around. I think that Rangers have now, the penny's dropped with Kevin Thelwell, the penny's dropped with the appointments and the signings and the sort of horror story which has been rolling back into was last season. Everything that Kevin Thelwell touched turned to something brown and smelly. And I think that Rangers have realised no more, that we've done enough of this. You wonder, what that then means in the longer term for the guys like Dan Purdy, who, a friend and ally of Kevin Thelwell, who's still at the club, and Robbie Thelwell, Thelwell Jr., who's sitting there in a head role of recruitment.
I feel
I'll
sorry
be
for Robbie
fascinated.
Thelwell. I feel really sorry for him. I feel really sorry for Robbie Thelwell.
I wouldn't feel so sorry for him. I hear his pay packet's a cracker.
That's true. That's true.
So, and presumably he'll be looking at, if Rangers do decide to cut all Kevin Thelwell ties, then all these guys will be in line for a nice little earner as well. So, but it is interesting because the transfer window obviously is so important to Rangers in January. If they have any chance of pulling themselves out of this tailspin, then they need to do some good business in January. And the question is, do you let Dan Purdy and Robbie Thelwell call those shots? I wouldn't have thought so.
I wouldn't have thought so.
And I think you've seen an indication there that the Americans now have realised that they were backing the wrong horse. And I think Rangers would have been behind this decision to U-turn on the appointment of a new head of the academy. Although I think Wolves are painting a different picture down the road. They're kind of painting it as a bit of a coup, that this guy was on his way to Rangers and we thought we were going to lose him. So they've actually promoted him to head of their academy. So he's come out of it well anyway. So everyone's a winner.
A statement on the Wolves website reads, GHB was due to start at Rangers in January in a similar position, but will now be staying at Wolves as Academy Director, working closely with Rob Edwards and Matt Jackson in a new sporting structure. So there you go. You mentioned there...
all Thelwell that ends Thelwell.
Hey! I should work for a newspaper. On Kevin Thelwell, he was one of the talking points when I caught up with Record Sports' Andy Newport a little bit earlier on, obviously off the back of the 0-0 draw with Falkirk yesterday. Shall we hear a little bit of what he had to say?
Yes, let's do that.
I should say I started by asking him where Danny Rohl stands after yesterday's, as I say, 0-0 draw.
The fact that, he's had to step into a situation with so many players that are just so clearly out of their depth at this scenario, that it's hard to sort of point fingers at him. But I think, he's going to need time, he's going to need money, and he's going to need new recruits to come in January before you can be anywhere. You'll be able to come to any sort of conclusion on, because he's been left a mess, frankly, to clean up, and it's going to take months and millions to rectify, frankly.
There's one player that I want to get your take on, Andy, Bojan Miovski. Why has it not worked out for him so far? I mean, he was getting a lot of stick in last night's show in the comments. This is a guy that's been there and done it in the Premiership. Is it a case he's not getting enough service, or is it down to him? I mean, I don't know.
I think it's twofold. I definitely think this is a team that doesn't play to his strengths. And they don't create chances at all, really. Never mind chances that suit his style of play. But I think he can do more, a lot more, to get himself involved in play. I was up at, I remember last time I really sort of had a close look at him. His last proper start was up at Dundee, sitting next to Scott that day, and both of us were just full agreement that he has to do more to get himself involved, to make himself a focal point in this team. This is a team that's crying out for somebody at the top end of the pitch to hold the ball, to make space, to bring others into play, and crucially to be in the box at the right time and to take chances. I mean, say what you want about Cyril Dessers, but he always seemed to be in the right place at the right time to get himself on the end of a chance. Whether we'd take it or not, that was the big thing that would why people were so critical of him at times. But his movement was fantastic. He always seemed to be exactly where the ball was going to fall. Miovski is the opposite. he's nowhere to be seen whenever the ball drops in the box. Same can be said for Yusuf Chermiti. I think the two of them have been hugely underwhelming so far, and in some ways I think Majowski's the bigger disappointment. As much as he didn't cost the £8 million that Chermiti did, I think fans had a real expectation that this was a guy that was going to come in and sort of carry on where he'd been at Aberdeen. Yeah, he went to Spain, he had a difficult 12 months in Spain, but that can happen. You're stepping into, second or third best league in the world, a team that's sort of struggling at the bottom end of the table. He's coming back to Scotland, the league he knows. He's playing for one of the top, the bigger teams in the league. Okay, they've not been great form, but you would think that the amount of chances that Rangers would normally create in a game, that he would take a few of them. I think it's one goal and maybe 20 appearances. Yeah, I mean it's just been nowhere near good enough. With the caveat that Rangers as a team, I've just written a piece today just talking about that. I mean, Jack Butland talking about just the lack of creativity in the team, and how that's a team issue. It's not just something you can pin on individuals. I think that's true, but I mean, like they've went from, I think the XG was 1.43. If you want to get any of your technical jargon, I'm sure Keith's a big one for that. That was at 1.43, I think it was last year. Now it's down to, I think it's 0.85. So that basically tells you that they were creating 1.5 clear-cut chances a game last season. Now they're creating less than one chance on average per game. So that just shows you how far levels have sank. And that was last season, when we would all argue that, at that time, we were writing off that team as one of the worst in living memory. I mean, look at it now. I mean, it's dropped. Well, however bad things were last season, they have dropped miles below that this year.
Keith said that he reckons this is the worst Rangers team since the early 80s. That a Rangers team in the top flight, anyway. That seemed a wee bit. Sorry, I mean, like Caxinia's team wasn't great. I mean, that seems a wee bit harsh to me.
No, I think it's. I would just say. I mean, I was talking to a colleague this sort of very subject today. Caxinia team still had Tavernier to hit his prime. You still had Morelos coming into his prime at that point. You still had other guys in it that I think have gone on to have decent enough careers. I think this is, listen, what is it? I mean, I still think they're only, is it 2 or 3 defeats away from equaling the worst ever calendar year run, which was 19 defeats. I think they're on 16 at the minute. I need to double check. I haven't counted it up since the last time I wrote that stat. But if they get, still potential to get another couple of defeats this year, which would rank alongside 1985, which is a year that they finished 5th, which was the lowest ever top flight finish. So, I think there's still potential for this team to write its way into the history books, and that just shows you how bad a job has been done by Kevin Thelwell. I mean, this was the thought that went through my head is that the final whistle blew yesterday. It wasn't that, they've obviously get rid of Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, but the repercussions of that disastrous window in the summer, not just the guys who've come in, the guys they've allowed to leave without adequately replacing. Yeah, the Rangers are going to be feeling this for months, if not years. That window. To us, we've been saying that about. There's several windows over the last 5-6 years. You could have said that about that. The repercussions of it will echo on, but this is definitely one. This is a window that will take a long time to unpick. And right now, it's Danny Rohl, who's the guy who's going to have to. He's the one, tasked with fixing that mess. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, for starters, they need probably a minimum of 3 guys in January, an absolute minimum. That's just to. It would allow them to get to a position where they could maybe qualify for Europe. I think that's a real threat for this Rangers team, because you look at the run coming up. Obviously, they've got Tannadice on Wednesday night. They've got Kilmarnock to go to. The late game on Saturday. They've got games against. I think there's a trip to Tynecastle Cup as well soon. There's another game against Aberdeen as well. Celtic Park coming the new year. There's. None of these games are guarantees for Rangers to win. Absolutely none of them. So, it's going to take a lot to get Rangers back in any shape of competitiveness when they're talking about titles. It's been a frankly nightmarish few months for the Rangers support, and they've got every reason to be angry with Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart, and the American owners.
That's why, Andy, I give Dan, and we're running out of time, but that's why I give Danny Rohl a wee bit of a pass. He's not saying any of these players. You know, it would have been 5 wins in a row yesterday. I just felt like when he was getting stick yesterday, it was a wee bit harsh.
Well, listen, I think what folk are maybe saying, right, he stabilised the defence. Now can we see something extra, an extra embellishment, something, a flourish attacking-wise? We're not seeing that. But as you rightly say, what can you do with it? A tradesman's only as good as his tools. And right now, Danny Rohl's tools are fairly blunt, let's put that.
Andy, it's always a pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. Massive appreciation for joining us when you're a little bit under the weather, but I'm sure I'll be pestering you to come back on soon.
I'm away for a wee cup of Horlicks.
Nice one. Enjoy.
Cheers, pal.
Andy Newport there, Keith. We've got plenty of comments coming in.
He's gone early with the Christmas decos.
Let me throw a couple of these comments at you to get
when
your
you're putting your tree up, Dan?
There's a chance it might not. It's not up yet. I don't know. When do you put it up?
I think I'm going for tomorrow.
Really? That's a bit.
Yeah.
That's a bit soon, I think.
Well, I like to extend the period. So I was actually getting a wee bit jealous there when I saw Andy with his Christmas techies up. So I think I'll do mine tomorrow.
I think I'll leave it a little bit longer. But
major job. I'll need to get the staff out to the West Wing and all this to get the decorations out and get the under gardener to take care of the outside stuff.
Aye, nice one. That's good. I hope they cope well with that. In the comments, Rangers.
Believe that, you believe in.
Rangers is okay says the damage Thelwell has done in 3 months is incredible. Our worst ever transfer window with genuinely not one player up to it. Fans have had enough. Ibrox was dead yesterday and will only get worse. Scotland the Brave says, Keith, how can you do business in January when posting a loss? Have you forgot about financial fair play? Sean says, realistically, how much in January? If they get 5 million, I'd be very surprised. Derek echoes that, saying, what sort of players and what sort of names do you think Rangers need?
What don't they need?
Seen a pick earlier in McCoy's Duran, Alan McLaren, Moore McInnes and Ian Ferguson. These guys would walk straight into our team and are all the type we need. I mean, are they not all in their late 50s?
They would improve that team. They would improve that team considerably, even at 50 odd.
Even now,
listen, on a serious point, right? I totally get your point, and there will be plenty of people out there that agree with you, Dan. That this isn't a problem that Danny Rohl has created. That's right. There's no debating that. I think where there's an issue about his suitability for the position, I think if you rewind and you go back, I want to know if there's any Rangers fan out there that would put their hand in their heart and say that at any previous point in the club's history, they would have been satisfied if a guy whose only full managerial season that he's got in his CV constituted a 12th place finish in the second tier of the English League.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of a time and place where Rangers would find that acceptable. He's 36. I think guys with a wealth of experience would really struggle with the situation that he's having to deal with right now. The bum hand that he's been dealt in terms of the squad that he's got. I'm just not sure that he had the. And I said at the time, this isn't in retrospect. For me, he never had a CV worthy of having his name in the mix for the discussion about who's the next Rangers manager going to be. And I think you can see the direction of travel here. Kevin Thelwell quite rightly is the lightning rod here. Rangers fans are furious with what he's done, and rightly so. And we were saying it on here for months and months and months, and eventually the penny dropped. But I think that unfortunately for Danny Rohl, he was very much a Kevin Thelwell choice. Kevin Thelwell was the guy that really pushed for Danny Rohl when other guys like Steven Gerrard and Kevin Muscat were taking a look and going, oh no, that's not for me. And Danny Rohl was this guy who was a candidate originally before Russell Martin. He was a name that Kevin Thelwell had promoted at that point. And he's the guy that Kevin Thelwell ultimately hung his hat on this time around. And I think if you're starting to unravel and unpick all the Kevin Thelwell decisions and you realise that the vast majority, if not all, have been catastrophically flawed, then I think Danny Rohl's got a potential perception problem there. And that's why I think he really needs to, I think it was good for him to get a few wins under his belt, stabilise things a little bit. Performance levels haven't improved. I think they've gone the other way, to be perfectly honest with you. But he's now looking at a stretch of 3 games in 10 days, away to Dundee United, away to Kilmarnock, away to Ferencváros. And I think that Danny Rohl might have a surprise waiting for him if he comes off on the wrong end of these results and these fixtures. And Andy's talking about, if they lose 3 more games before the end of the year, they might lose 3 more games. It's not inconceivable they'll lose 3 more games in the next week. And if that happens, then by the time they get back to Ibrox, and I think Hibs visit Ibrox on the 15th of December, that will not be a moment of goodwill to all men at that point. And Danny Rohl, I think at that point, if he suffers badly in these next 3 games, then I think there's a world of pain ahead for him and for Rangers. And I think that's the situation he's in already. He's only 9 games in. If, however, the flip side of that, of course, is go out there, go and get the results, go and build some momentum, and Ibrox will be a happy place again in time for Christmas. But at this minute in time, I think he's in that area there. It could go either way. He's right at crossroads, which seems ridiculous 9 games into his tenure there, and it probably is. But then this is a ridiculous part of the world.
I know time's getting on, Keith, but we've got a couple of comments on this that I'll very quickly throw at you. This one, John says, Danny Rohl has been showing up for the naive manager he is, but Rangers, is he okay? Says, isn't Rohl's fault at all, Keith. But this is where Rangers, and even to an extent, look at Celtic, who report no idea about Nancy, but 7th with Columbus, both can't attract big names. Scott also says at the moment...
Well, hold on, let me counter that.
Go for it.
Stephen Gerrard got on a plane and came to Britain to speak to the Americans. Mm-hmm. It was only on closer inspection of the structure, various other things that he clearly wasn't happy with, and it was similar with Kevin Muscat. And I said at the time, so I'm not going to walk back from it now. I think the presence of Kevin Thelwell in that structure was a major concern, a major red flag.
Yeah.
So they were decent names.
That's true. Aye. The Green Machine says you can't blame Danny Rohl. The rot was already set in. Blame the non-triers like Raskin and the strikers. And Scott insists at the moment it's an impossible job for Rohl. It will be a struggle in January. So, plenty of response there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I'm saying, though. If you had the world's most experienced manager in there right now, that's been over the course and distance and been in really tricky situations, any of these guys would really struggle with a set of circumstances that Danny Rohl's having to wrestle with right now. So I've got immense sympathy for him, but it's now about him proving that he was deserving of the opportunity in the first place. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not sure that anybody else other than Kevin Thelwell believed that to be the case.
I guess time will tell. At the weekend, Keith, there was plenty of interesting, controversial talking points on the pitch in regards to refereeing calls. And who better to pour over them all with us than our resident referee, the one and only Des Roache. We caught up with him a little bit earlier on. Des Clark, aye. We caught up with Des a little bit earlier on. Let's hear what he had to say. Joined on the hotline now by the one and only Des Roache. Des, how are you?
I'm very well, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. I like having Des on the show, Keith. I like my Des corners.
We like our resident ref, yep. And we've got some interesting decisions made on the pitch and off it, VAR, to discuss from the weekend action. Des, where do we start, Daniel? Where do we start? What one?
Colby Donovan, should we start with that?
Yes, Des. Your view on the Colby Donovan tackle. I think you've kind of expressed an opinion that you thought the young Celtic fullback should have been red carded at the weekend.
Yes, I do. I do think it should be red card. And while you don't ever want to see players sent off, you want to keep 22 men in the park. I felt that the challenge was severe. It was at pace. It was high. It was endangering the safety of an opponent. It ticks the boxes for serious foul play. I don't think for any moment that he wanted to inflict any pain or any danger on Obita, but it's a red card challenge for me.
We obviously can't show the clip here for obvious reasons, but looking at those pictures, I have to say, during the game, I thought a yellow card sufficed. But looking back at it last night, Keith, I do think he's pretty lucky, to be honest. He's really late.
He's a mile late, but I'm with you, Daniel. I thought my initial view was, yeah, he's late. It's a yellow card. I didn't see what Des is seeing in terms of being high. I think he's gone in a quite controlled manner, albeit he's just way too late. And he's fully committed, and he's going to take the guy out at that point. But I didn't see it malicious. I just thought it's one of these ones, Des, are we not in danger? And I know that VAR's there to be used, but sometimes I think when you put everything in slow motion, everything looks as if it's an assault case. You know, even something like that, slowed down to the whatever degree and looked at from all sorts of angles. I think sometimes it can look a lot worse, and I think we're guilty of going down that rabbit hole on a lot of these occasions where you're looking at stuff and the slow-mo makes it look 10 times worse than it actually was at real speed.
Yeah, I don't disagree. When you magnify anything anywhere, it's going to look worse than it is. But for me, when you look at VAR and why VAR's there, you have the opportunity to look at it at real time. You have the opportunity to look at it slowed down. You have the opportunity to look at it magnified. I just think that Kobe Donovan jumped in there unnecessarily the way that he challenged. Now, we can't be judge and jury on the severity of the speeds or the contact. I just thought at that moment in time, the way he's challenged, if the referee has the opportunity to look at it, I think that's worthy of a red card.
So what's the protocol then, Des? What should have happened in your view?
Well, what's happened and what I think should happen are two entirely different things, because Nick wasn't called across to look at it.
So you think VAR should have gotten his ear at that point and said, you need to take a second look at this, Nick?
Yes, if it was me, if it was you and I, and we were operating this game, I would say, right, Keith, I think this is worthy of an on-field review. You don't need to take my advice, but I think you should be allowed the opportunity to view it again. And he said, in my opinion, only me, my opinion, I think that was worthy of a red card.
One instant in that game that was given an on-field review was Hibs' penalty, the handball by Liam Scales. And look, I can understand, obviously, why this was given as a penalty. But to play devil's advocate a little bit, going back to what you were saying, Keith, when you slow it down, when you really zoom in on it, it looks like a Stonewall penalty. But I mean, he's crouching to head the ball.
As a Stonewall, as a Stonewall penalty, Daniel.
He's not trying to handball it. He's crouching. I mean, what else can he do?
Well, as I said last night in the show, and I defer to Des and all of this, obviously, but my point being, Chris Sutton was saying during commentary, and I was laughing out loud at this because he said it 2 or 3 times, even while you were watching it. He said, his arm's down at his side, as the slow motion replay was showing that his arm was up here and that the ball was. So to me, it's one of them that before VAR, does the naked eye catch it? Probably not. But when the video evidence is as damning as that, I'm afraid for me it's a penalty kick all day long, and not least because right behind him, if he doesn't make contact with his arm, Rocky Bashiri's got a tap in and an open goal.
We've went round the house so many times with this handball rule, Des, but it doesn't really matter, does it? That he doesn't mean to handball it, or does it?
I think and what I went down the line of, me and also my colleague Steve Conroy, handball should be deliberate and intent. Now, I don't think for a minute that I'll say it, Liam Scales, keep calling him John. I don't think for a minute Liam Scales is intended to handball that. It's just come off. I mean, it's like a scene from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon there, isn't it?
So what's your verdict on it? Should it have been awarded or not?
Yeah, I'm not going to use the Willie, the Royal, we can support it I can support that. I think, okay, fair enough, that's a penalty kick.
I defer to my more experienced colleagues then. I don't think there was anything else. No, the other one that we wanted to talk about was Kilmarnock and Dundee United. A big call in that game, the penalty call. How did you see that, Des?
I can't see where they're getting a penalty kick from. Cannot see it. It's football's a contact sport played at a high speed, high tempo. Do you know what? Players are going to come together. Players will make contact with one another. For me, I just seen two players, an attacker, a defender, going to try and head the ball at the same time, and they just made physical contact with one another. I don't think there's a penalty kick in there anywhere.
I have to say,
It's a ridiculous decision. It's a ridiculous decision made on the pitch by a referee. He's not Des's favourite, Mr. McDermott. But what the VAR? Why VAR isn't getting involved in that? I mean, I'll give always got to give the referee the benefit of the doubt, because it's one view. It happens in a split second. These mistakes will happen, but that's the whole point. The safety net is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be VAR. It's why the whole thing was introduced. It's why clubs are paying for it. Why are they not using it in that situation? That's beyond my understanding. Des, help me.
I can't help you. We're on the same ABBA hymn sheet here. We're get nothing that we can say. VAR should be there to tidy up these clear and obvious errors. VAR should be there to make sure that decisions aren't wrong. This should be the easiest time to referee ever, because you get more help. You get more help. You've got linesmen, assistant referees who are mic'd up, who are talking to you. You've got a fourth official who's at the side of the park, who's dealing with the management, and you've got two guys, a VAR and an assistant VAR, sitting in a studio watching it on TV. Surely that's the easiest time you can ever referee, because if you get it wrong, they should be getting it right.
And for Dundee United, who are one win in the last.
Who was on that VAR? Who was the VAR on that?
I'm not sure. I've not looked at it.
Do you know who I think it was? I think it was Andrew Dallas. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Andrew Dallas. And he's supposed to be our best operator in the VAR bunker. Well, I think we've got a real, and we keep saying it, but it's a real press and credibility problem, Des. It's not good enough.
No, and I think the word used there, credibility, is probably the best word that we can use, because if we try and come out, sorry, not we, I'm not using the royal we, if we keep being given the narrative that it's been used for coaching and it's going to be looked at, I don't think that Matthew McDermott has been managed particularly well, because there's a lot of things went wrong for him over this season. And surely, if you're a manager and you're a player, what do? You take him out the firing line, you try and put a wee arm around him and help him and coach him and encourage him. And if Andrew Dallas, as you say, is our number one VAR, who keeps getting the big games, keeps making the same mistakes.
And just to confirm, it was Andrew Dallas on VAR for that. Matthew McDermott obviously refereeing.
Are you doubting me?
Never in a million years. Just wanted to make sure. Des, thank you so much for joining us on the Hotline Live. Massively appreciate it. I'm sure we'll be back dragging you on for more controversial decisions soon.
No problem at all, guys. I'm just going to pick up my wife at the train station.
Cheers, Des.
Cheers, Des.
Cheers, guys. Speak to you soon.
Des there, Keith. I do like when Des is on to pour over all the big talking points.
I thought you were going to say we'll be back dragging you back in over the coals at some point in the very near future, which I think is absolute certainty. Right. But to be fair to Des, I think he comes at it from a very straight position, doesn't he? He's
aye.
You know, he's one of the fraternity of officials, but I think he's got a pretty clear view on most things. Whether you agree with him or not is a different matter entirely, but he's got a clear view.
Absolutely. Is there anything else we should touch on before we end Monday night's Hotline Live? I don't think there is. I think it's been quite a comprehensive show.
Yeah, I think it's dinner time now. I need to go up to the loft and get the decos down as well.
Exactly. I know.
So no messing about here, boys.
And it'll take you 20 minutes to get over to that side of the castle.
The West Wing. Yeah.
The West Wing. That's it. good luck with that. I hope that all goes well.
Thanks,
Um,
Dan.
for everyone watching in the comments, thank you so much. We appreciate you getting involved in the conversation, and we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. We hope you can join us then. And Keith, hope your decorating goes well.
Jingle bells.
Perfect note to end it on.